Hello guys, welcome back. So in this tutorial we're gonna continue with textures. So let's just go ahead and make sure you're in your dynamic menus, by the way, and just add little 2D container with an emitter. Alright, so we're looking at textures, which is that one there. Alright, so by default all textures are turned off. Alright, so what Maya is pretty much asking us here is, what texture are you after? You can have texture color, texture incandescence, and texture opacity. Let's turn these off and have texture opacity. Let's put it back to 200. Why not? We love the number. And just press 5 to shade that. Now, when we have texture opacity, we've got also the texture type right here. So we have Parlin noise. This is the fastest, and it is the same noise that they have plugged into the solid fractal. So this texture type is very, very fast. Now we also have below. We have the volume wave. All right, we've got wispy. We've got space-time, and last but not the least, we've got Mandelbrot. Okay, this is a pretty cool texture, by the way. This bad boy right here is a very cool texture. We'll work with that one later. I just wanted to point that out. Now, texture opacity. If I go ahead and just render that, this is what you're gonna get. And if I turn that bad boy off and render again, that's what you're gonna get. So it's a way of actually adding up an opacity to your texture. All right, so excuse me, let's turn that off and turn on the texture color. Texture color again, let's just pull this one on the side, zoom in a bit more, bring that one back, and just render the texture color. Now this is just a normal sort of, normal map texture, whatever you can call it. Here we've got color texture gain. Now if you bring, let's look at that. Okay, if we bring this down, nothing happens on here. And even if we do this and just render that, nothing happens. The reason why nothing is happening here is because this one is plugged into the shading attributes. Now, shading attributes, and that's the color section of the shading attributes. If we add another swash and just change the color to something like blue, see what happens. Bang, we got that. Got that right there. Okay, scroll down and color texture gain. This color texture gain again is more like the bias. Okay, so if you put it to the center and just render this, I like to make, I never get it right, that, and just render this, see what happens. The top bit is blue and the bottom bit is sort of whitish, grayish, whatever color that is. And again, if we move the color texture gain to less than 1, look at the majority of the color be blue. Okay, and if we move it to that, so it will go back to that. So it's pretty much like an input bias. Okay, that's what that is pretty much. We also have some attributes for each. We've got these attributes, incandescence, blah blah blah, for each of these. So texture color, we've got color texture gain. If we turn this off and turn on texture incandescence, we've got incand text gain. And if we turn this off and turn that bad boy off, we have the opacity texture gain. Okay, so we've got different attributes for different whatever it is that we're messing around with. All right, so before we go any further, I'm gonna look at coordinate method. Right now we've got it on fixed, okay? Right now it's on fixed coordinate method, which means we are using the 0 to 1 UV space. So if I change that to grid, what is going to happen is that we're going to animate the UV. We're going to animate the colors within the UV space along with the density. So that's what we're going to do if we put it on grid. All right. So we also have the speed. Okay, let me just bear with me, guys. We also have the coordinate speed here. Coordinate speed is pretty much adding speed, as in the actual sense of the word. Adding speed, how fast we want it to. We want that grid to react within the UV space. And again, to make more sense, once we start doing the project base, we only have 2 tutorials left, so we'll get to it. So make sure you set that back to fixed. All right, scroll down. So now we have the threshold and the amplitude. What these are going to do, they're going to make whatever it is that we've got set up here brighter. Okay, threshold or amplitude, they're going to make what we've got here brighter. Now the amplitude is kind of scaling. So if you scale that to 1, bright will be brighter and dark will be darker. And if you put that past 1, anything above 1 will be clipped out and become whatever color it is that you have set that to. So it's a pretty way of saying, okay, if you go beyond this amount, you'll be this. If you go below this, you can be this. So it's a bit of something to do with tweaking. So again, it will make more sense once we make a project for that. Now ratio, let me just do this. Ratio, the higher the number, the more the detail. So we've got this again. If we render that, the higher the ratio, let's just take this to the center and render that bad boy once again. Ratio, the higher that number, the more detail we're gonna get. Okay, and again, we sacrificing space depending on what we've got in the scene. We're sacrificing the RAM and the resources. Okay, anyway, resources ratio will add detail. Frequency ratio, that's again the scaling of the ratio. If you want, it's more like scaling of the ratio, so it's more like multiplying that by 2, multiplying the ratio by 4, by 5, by 6. So, and again, it's gonna use up your resources. It's pretty much adding noise to your ratio. It will use up your resources as well. Depth max. Let me just scroll down. Depth max. Right now it's set to 2. This is more like we're going to sample our fluid. Excuse me. We're going to sample our fluids twice, okay? So we're adding more detail to our fluid. Guys, I hope I'm not confusing you. Depth max will mean we sample our fluid twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times to 8 times. So, and again, using up your RAM, okay? Invert texture. Invert texture is a way of inverting texture. So if I click on that and just render that, look what happens. What's white will be black, and what's black will be white. So in other words, what's neutral will be color, and what's color will be neutral. Let me just deselect that. Inflection, this is pretty much a way of adding puffiness to your fluid, and that's lack of better word, by the way. See, if I deselect that and just render that on its own, that you're adding depth 2. So that's the drill. That's how this works. Texture time. texture time is a way of breaking up patterns. Okay, it's a way of breaking up patterns. Let's say you've got right now, if I simulate that fluid, there's just one pattern. Okay, there's one pattern, and if there's another, if I simulate this fluid right about there and another fire there, they'll have the same pattern. Okay, they'll have the same pattern, and that's not good. It's not visually appealing to the eye. So what you're gonna have to do is to either key that, but with me, I like to create an expression, and we're gonna next project we're gonna do that. We're gonna use texture time to break up the it's a way of breaking up the pattern, you know, add some sort of characteristic or you know, life to the fire to make it more realistic. So that's what texture time is. Zoom factor, and again, is a way of it works well once we add an expression, but it's a way of can you just close your eyes and imagine a fire blows up? It's got that zoom bits into it, you know, like a certain bit of the fire just sticks out more. That's what that zoom factor does. Frequency is how they're happening, how frequent you're getting that, and you've got your coordinates, you've got your x, y, z that are linked to the frequency that you can sort of specify where you want how you want your result to be. And again, it will make more sense once we start working with once we work on a project. Once we start working on a project. Implode, and again, these attributes will make more sense later. Implode is like adding a cylindrical effects to cylindrical effect or projection to your fluid effect. Okay, that's what that is. And we've got more options down there that can be activated by below have extra below density, spottiness, and again, these are pretty cool. Let me just do that, render that, zoom in. So if we render that, see that that's like adding the spottiness of it. So you can also increase that. Look what's gonna happen. Increase that. You increasing the spottiness, and the spottiness size is whatever, randomness of the spots. It's self-explanatory, really. Most of this stuff I just ended up reading the thing, and you know, it's self-explanatory. So that's exactly how that is. Adding the spottiness, you know, pretty much. Fall off, you've got fast fall off, you've got smooth fall off. Okay, see how smooth it is. It's like adding some blur in your spots, okay, and adding some bubble that have some sort of, jeez, looks like someone is burning chilies up in here. See, adding some bubbles in there, and it's this can be a pretty cool effect if you've got, depending on what you've got really. So you work with that. And again, we still have different options. If you add volumetric wave, you've got a number of waves, 5, blah blah. You can specify what you want, how many waves you want, and wispy. You've got amplitude and all these attributes. So yeah, let's go ahead and work with. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you guys. Let's go right here. Let's see, we've got render interpolator. I'm going back to shading, okay, the previous tutorial. Render interpolator is we've covered this bit, so I didn't have to explain, because automatically I know we've covered what render interpolator is, making it smooth, making it linear. We've covered this already, so you already know what that is, and I like to work with adaptive jitter. Okay, so anyway, see you in the next tutorial, guys. We've got one tutorial left, which will be lighting, and once we finish lighting, we'll touch on our own 3D containers a little bit, but not too detailed. We'll just touch on it a little bit, and because whatever 2D attributes that we've done will apply to the 3D, so we'll just touch a few bits and pieces here and there that you need to know, then we'll get into some serious stuff. Alright guys, thank you very much, and make sure you subscribe. Bye bye.